Up next, we have Dr. John Ross Rizzo, who will be presenting Evolution 2.0, Tools to Destroy Visual Disability and Unlock Superheroes. Big round of applause for Dr. Rizzo.
Thank you. Yeah, I need that. Thank you. Excellent. All right. Make sure you cue slides. What if I asked you to pick up the first item on your typical shopping list from a local supermarket without vision? Indulge me for a minute, and please close your eyes. Picture yourself standing outside your favorite grocery store. Maybe you pulled up in your car, or jumped off the local bus, or perhaps hopped out of a subway station. You could feel the sun beating down on your face and hear the hustle and bustle of the post-work, pre-dinner rush. What specific direction would you head in to target the doorway? How many steps are required to reach the front entrance? Where are the curbs and ramps in relationship to your planned path? What are the exact locations of those storefront pillars relative to you? Let's assume you're in the doorway. Where are the shopping carts or baskets given your current position? How many steps would you now take to reach the first and most conveniently positioned one? Where's the handle of that cart or basket? What additional moving objects would you have to be most mindful of? Children, other shoppers, perhaps dogs? This sounds exhausting, doesn't it? You can open your eyes. For the 300 million who are visually impaired worldwide, this seemingly simple task is a complex journey fraught with challenges. And the anxiety you may have just experienced by struggling to answer these questions doesn't come close to capturing how truly taxing and painful it is to navigate through everyday tasks without sight or with limited sight. The bottom line is that most of us take for granted the ability of our visual system to spatially analyze the environment and the use of this information for seamless navigation. For the last 30 years of my life, I have watched my vision, starting at the outermost extent in the periphery, fade from clear to blurry and eventually to nothing, shrinking to a small tunnel right in the very center. I have a rare disease called choroideremia that has been robbing me of my sight since I was a child. Here's an inside view of a healthy retina and a side-by-side view of mine. Presently, I'm legally blind by definition. And setbacks such as worsening vision, medical complications like cystic macular edema, and professional obstacles have been the norm. But the truth is, I'm also incredibly fortunate. I have an amazing wife who is the ultimate partner in aid. She helps guide me places. As a matter of fact, in dim light, when I'm at my absolute worst, we have our own hand-holding squeeze codes to signal ramps, curbs, stairs, obstacles, and occasionally even the irresistible pastry, although it has to be gluten-free. Strong squeezes, light squeezes, sequence squeezes, squeezes in doublets and triplets, there is an art to it. I also have strong family and an awesome team of colleagues and staff who are always willing to lend me their arm, forearm, or hand, guiding me like a train caboose through crowded city streets, through never-ending conference venues with carpets that look like vomit, and between meeting locations. And to be blunt, I would not be here today if I would not and have not been able to hitch rides. But it has not and is not always like this. I have been left out straight into danger and wished certain periods of my life away. I do not always have handheld assistance and cannot always hitch some of these rides like a train caboose. I have tripped and stumbled and fallen in certain cases, run into all kinds of fun objects, including those podium things on tripods outside right here, all kinds of fun, and I have the battle wounds to prove it. My visual disability has brought pain, mostly mild, but it has brought me tenacity, insight, and opportunity. And these gains have incrementally advanced every stumble and every misstep, and in certain cases, on some of these collisions. To be frank, I wish I could snap fingers and reverse blindness and extend these improvements to the multi-headed hydra that blindness represents across the spectrum. But presently, this is not an option. So how do we move forward, particularly as physiatrists? Well, every time I become increasingly frustrated, it's a deep breath, a reboot, and an exercise in reframing. It's now a challenge. How do we improve the status quo and attack these vexing circumstances? I then retrigger a realization. If I'm affected by this inaccessible environment, there are others, and solutions are needed to destroy the obstructions. 1 in 5 adults lives with a disability in the US. Between 65 and 75, that number jumps to 1 in 4. Over 75, 1 in 2. And as you may already know, we are becoming an aging society. We can look around, no offense. If disabled, the unemployment rate approaches 70%. Household income drops by close to 40%, and the poverty rate shoots up by 2.5-fold. We are 3 times more likely to have heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and cancer. It all sounds pessimistic. But what's the upside of living in 2018? We're in the 4th industrial revolution. What is that? The age of intelligent machines, and technology is leaping forward at immeasurable speeds. I see a different future for us, one where we level the playing field and destroy previously established ceilings, creating digital power tools that fill gaps for those in need with disability. Tools that not only help achieve baseline functional status, but that surpass it with new super abilities. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. This guy is reading way too many comic books. Let me take you back to my story for a second. So I'm channeling these frustrations, some of these stumbles and these collisions, and redirecting this emotion into fuel for finding solutions. And I became hell-bent on studying the visual system. I was fascinated how I could compensate in leveraging my intact vision, that central vision, to cover my shrinking peripheral field. I was absorbed by how individuals with compromised vision could maintain reasonable function and compensate strategically. While I learned a tremendous amount, there were still gaps. As I continued to lose sight, I became increasingly aware of increasingly complex navigation challenges. The progressive condition had given me a first-row seat to this special feature. Even as I became better equipped with these compensation strategies, there were always dangers. Even on a simple trip to a frequented store with mental maps and planning, I could trip on a curb that was higher than the others. I could run into a wall that was painted with muted colors at dusk, and I could collide with the open trunk of a car. So I kept thinking how we could fill gaps with digital tools to help maximize safety and efficiency during navigation. The key was harnessing the innovation developed for driverless cars and applying it for use with visionless pedestrians. If we could cover a car's blind spots, or all spots for that matter, with automated technology, why not a person's? So we set out to build advanced wearables that could be worn during navigation and that could analyze and react in all environments. Watching a visually impaired person's blind spots, however large or severe they were. Imagine recreating my wife and her hand squeeze codes virtually and retrofitting her into a wearable. She would not be happy and she would complain, let me tell you, but in all seriousness, envision a device that mapped your external space and that created a supersensory protective halo around you, like a spherical shield or a bubble of security, a device that didn't fatigue, was resistant to aging, and that freed us from the dependencies of additional animate or handheld assistance, a device that fed you distilled spatial information through logical prompts and cues using selective touch and audio, and that could be deployed in something as universal as a book bag. Think of the same sensors that line the bumpers of your car fitted along the shoulder straps of that backpack, along with a set of small vibrating motors similar to what you would find in your cell phones for silent alerts along the waist strap, all coordinated by a cell phone and a headset, giving you blind spot monitoring in any location, anytime. We can have a digital power tool that continually watches the world around you. The potential is for 360 degrees of full protection. And so when I was talking about super abilities, I was not kidding. Imagine a device that could see more and see farther, that could communicate with advanced mapping platforms through GPS, that could auto-blueprint building structures, that could be networked with buses, transportation authorities, and traffic control stations, and that could be socially conscious. Well, enough imagining. Where does this leave us presently? How about joining me on a guided visualization? Now, to start, I would like you to harness the anxiety from the earlier exercise without vision and jump back into the first scenario, retracing your steps into a grocery store. Only this time, I'm re-enabling you with a wearable that maps your environment in real time. But let's make this more vivid by taking you live to the store with real hazards, real navigation challenges, and real people who in turn become real obstacles. I'm going to help this process by granting you a first-person view of the active scene from one of the cameras on the book bag. Okay, go simulation.
Our system detects and interprets environmental features that may not be presented to the user, but are critical to providing the safest path forward. We use facial recognition to provide social alerting.
Deb C. from HR department ahead.
Expanding this capability will allow for richer interpersonal interactions and foster true independence.
Locate front entrance.
Front entrance located. 11 o'clock. 17 steps. Veer correction. Step left. Barrier post directly ahead. Front entrance 7 steps to your 1 o'clock. Target in 5 steps. 4, 3, 2, 1. Front entrance reached. Now in store foyer.
Engage point to tell.
Point to tell engaged. Motorized cart. Soda boxes. Door. Table. Shopping carts. Shopping cart selected. Target mode. Target in 5 steps. 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait to proceed. Customers exiting. Wait to proceed. Proceed. Engaging indoor map. Load shopping list.
And you're off. And you're off. What if I told you we're close to bringing many of these feature sets into reality for a wearable? It sounds futuristic, but we have completed the majority of this work in our research laboratories. In closing, I would like to share a few thoughts. Disability is a common denominator for the human race. Tearing the D, the I, and the S off of disability and focusing on ability is evolution. With new tools, we make the inaccessible accessible, the excluded included, and we ensure inequalities reverse into equalities. We are now able to unlock their superhero and those with disabilities at unprecedented speeds and with some damn cool super abilities and superpowers at that. I challenge us all to evolve, channel your frustrations into gains, make, shape, invent, and rewrite. Jump hurdles, tear down barriers, and blast through walls. Many thanks to you all.